Well, good morning, BookTube. Bill Ruttenberg here with the Ruttenberg Library. I wanted to come to you with another book haul. I recently was able to get some used books from our local public library. They were cleaning some stuff out of the shelves, and they also had somebody donate a bunch of books. And so she let me kind of pick through after she had loaded the shelves with a few from that collection. But I wanted to show you what I picked up. I thought I did pretty good here. So let me go ahead and get started here. So the first book that I picked up was Bruce Cantons' America, Selections from His Greatest Works, and it's edited by Oliver Jensen. And I thought this was a really cool book to get. It is, sorry about the glare, it is, let's see here, American Heritage book, and it is a 1979 book, but it is in really good shape. I am very pleased with how it looks. So let me go ahead and read the flap to you, the front flap. So it says, "No one has ever told America's story with more grace, clarity, and emotional power than the late Bruce Canton. In his books, ranging from the celebrated Civil War trilogies to the account of his boyhood in backcountry Michigan, Canton brought the people of the past to such vivid life that he became the nation's best loved and most widely read historian. Bruce Canton's friend and associate for many years, Oliver Jensen, has assembled this volume of selections from Canton's works as a memorial to the man and a tribute to the professional historian. The excerpts chosen for Bruce Canton's America include portions of A Stillness at Appomattox, which won both the Pulitzer Prize and the National Book Award, the American Heritage Picture History of the Civil War, awarded a special Pulitzer citation, and the representative selections from many other books and articles. The book also includes several previously unpublished pieces. The evocative photographs were chosen by Mr. Jensen from a variety of sources, among them the archives of American Heritage magazine, which Canton helped to create in 1954 and continued to influence for the next 24 years, first as editor and then as senior editor and a frequent contributor. Bruce Canton spent much of his adult life as a newspaperman in the Midwest, Washington, D.C., and became a historian of logical extension, to use his phrase. Although best known as the greatest writer on the Civil War, he was far-ranging of his other interests. These selections portray characters as various as Ulysses S. Grant, the legendary third baseman John McGraw, and Canton's boyhood music teacher. His uncanny skill could take you with equal ease to the picket lines between the armies of the Civil War or to an early 20th century logging camp. This book also sets forth Canton's thoughts and observations on such disparate topics as the baneful influence of the automobile and America's prospects for the next century. To those who are familiar with Bruce Canton's work, these selections will appear as old friends whose company never fails to provide enjoyment, stimulation, and a deep sense of worth. For those who have not yet read him, Bruce Canton's America will be an introduction to historical writing at its best. And so I totally agree with that assessment. It is historical writing at its best. If you have never read Canton, I would highly recommend him. When you read it, it reads just like a novel. He's brilliant with his with just how he wrote. There's a picture there. So anyway, I know I have read The Coming Fury, which is Volume 1 of his Civil War trilogy, and I am currently right now reading Volume 2 as my SSR read at school, and I absolutely love his writing. It flows very, very well. So the next book in the stack here is The Indian Heritage of America by Alvin M. Josephy Jr. And so this is just a trade paperback here, and it is from Bantam Books, and it is from the year 1968 originally, but this one is a 1976 printing, and you know, it's kind of in rough shape. It's got one page that got kind of wrinkled and destroyed almost, but anyway, other than that, the book's in all right shape. The spine's a little bit creased. I don't know if you can see that, but it's still got a couple reads in it, and so I'll go through that. The next book is Crazy Horse, The Strange Man of the Ogalas, a biography by Mary Sanders. Hopefully I said that right. If I didn't, please excuse me. But this little biography on Crazy Horse, and it is from the University of Nebraska Press. It's a Bison book, 1961, and so that'll be a nice read. It says 1961, but it's the 8th printing, 1970, excuse me, 1970. But it looks like it'll be a decent read, and you know, add to my knowledge of the West. And speaking of the West, here's another one on the West. This is The Beaver Man by Mary Sanders. It's same author, and so obviously fur trade here. And it is from University of Nebraska Press out of Lincoln, and it is a 1978 printing. And you know, just reading the back cover here, it says, covering more than 2 centuries, the Beaver Man ranges from the beginnings of the beaver trade along the St. Lawrence to the last great rendezvous of traders and trappers on Ham's Fork in what is now Wyoming in 1834. The exploits of Chauvin and Champlain are followed by the fur fairs at Montreal, with the canoe brigades bringing pelts from the wilderness down the Ottawa and the St. Lawrence. The traders and trappers probe ever deeper into the continent around Hudson's Bay, beyond the Great Lakes, along the upper Missouri and into the Rockies. The French couriers de Bois and voyagers make way for the Britons and the Scots of the Northwest and Hudson's Bay Company and their American competitors, Manuel Lisa's Missouri Fur Company and Astor's Men, the Rocky Mountain Fur Company, and others. And so, you know, this will be interesting. I know I did take one class that was a history of the West, and about a third of the class dealt with the fur trade. So that'll go right with, you know, what I learned earlier in my college years. The next book is called The Babylonians, an Introduction by Gwendolyn Leake, not sure how to say that. But anyway, this looks like it'll be a good read. I have nothing on the Babylonians. This would be my first. And it is from Routledge Press out of London and New York, and it is a 2003 book. So this will definitely be brand new for me. It says, who were the Babylonians? For centuries, Babylon has been a symbol of the decadent city par excellence, signifying a deep mistrust of urbanization in general. In the Bible, the city has only negative connotations, while later classical writers admired the city's size and splendor. They deplored some of its more unusual customs. Whatever the perspective, it was usual to take Babylon as standing for the whole of Mesopotamian civilization. The history of the Babylonians spans some 1,800 years, from the time of Hammurabi, famous for his law code, to the time of Alexander's heirs ruled the Near East. Archaeological discoveries in cuneiform tablets recovered from the Babylonian cities give us an insight into the Babylonian people and their society, and their intellectual and spiritual preoccupations. Gwendolyn Leake's approachable survey introduces these people, the reality behind the popular myth of Babylon. She explores the lives of kings and merchants, women and slaves, and the social, historical, and geographical cultural context in which their extraordinary civilization flourished for so many centuries. Enjoyable and accessible, this is the ideal introduction to the Babylonians for both students and the interested general reader. And so, like I said, that's my first book on the Babylonians. I have no other books in the collection on that. So that'll be kind of neat, and it's pretty short. It's only let's see, 180 pages, 182 pages if you include the index and notes, the bibliography. If you're looking at text, it's only 155 pages, so that'll be a real quick read. Next book is actually a replacement copy, and I took the paperback version of this down to the Give One, Take One small little box library that's in our downtown area. But this is The Rule of Four by Ian Caldwell and Dustin Thomason. I don't know if anybody remembers this book when it came out, but I thoroughly enjoyed it. You know, it had a Da Vinci Code type feel to it, and I just remember I liked it. I don't remember a ton about it, but it's like I said, a replacement copy for my shelves. Nice hardback. Next book that I picked up is a biography on Jimmy Stewart. So Jimmy Stewart, a biography by Mark Elliott. And I'm a big Jimmy Stewart fan, and so I was very, very happy to pick that up. That'll be interesting. I'll be honest, I don't know if it'll stay in the collection. I don't usually collect books about people from Hollywood, but you never know. Like I said, he's one of my favorite actors, so maybe it'll stay in the collection. And it says, Jimmy Stewart's all-American good looks, boyish charm, and deceptively easy-going style of acting made him one of Hollywood's greatest and most enduring stars. Despite the indelible image he projected of innocence and quiet self-assurance, Stewart's life was more complex and sophisticated than most of the characters he played. With fresh insight and unprecedented access, best-selling biographer Mark Elliott finally tells the previously untold story of one of our greatest screen and real-life heroes. Born into a family of high military honor and economic success, dominated by a powerful father, Stewart developed an interest in theater while attending Princeton University. Upon a graduation, he roomed with the then unknown Henry Fonda, and the two began a friendship that lasted a lifetime. While he harbored a secret, unrequited love for Margaret Sullivan, Stewart was paired with many of Hollywood's most famous, most beautiful, and most alluring leading ladies during his extended bachelorhood. Among them, Ginger Rogers, Olivia de Havilland, Loretta Young, and the notorious Marilyn Dietrich. After becoming a star playing a hero in Frank Capra's Mr. Smith Goes to Washington in 1939, and winning an Academy Award the following year for his performance in George Cukor's The Philadelphia Story, Stewart was drafted into the armed forces and became a hero in real life. When he returned to Hollywood, he discovered that not only the town had changed, but so had he. Stewart's combat experiences left him emotionally scarred, and his deepening darkness perfectly positioned him for the 50s, in which he made his greatest films, for Anthony Mann, Winchester 73, and The Bend of the River, and for more spectacularly Alfred Hitchcock in his triple meditation on marriage, Rear Window, The Man Who Knew Too Much, and Vertigo, which many film critics regard as the best American movie ever made. While Stewart's career thrived, so did his personal life. A marriage in his 40s, the adoption of his wife's two sons from a previous marriage, and the birth of his twin daughters laid the foundation for a happy life until unexpected tragedy had a shocking effect in his final years. Intimate and richly detailed, Jimmy Stewart is a fascinating portrait of a multifaceted and much admired actor, as well as an extraordinary slice of Hollywood history. And so, like I said, one of my favorite actors, so I'm happy to pick that up and give it a read. Again, I don't know if it'll stay in the collection because I just don't usually, read stuff like that, biographies about like Hollywood and stuff, but you never know. Next book in the stack here is To Conquer a Peace, The War Between the United States and Mexico by John Edward Weems, the human drama of a bitter chapter in American history. And so, history on the Mexican War. So that'll be kind of an interesting read. I have never read anything like a full-scale book on the Mexican War. And this is a let's see, 1974 book from Doubleday and Company out of Garden City, New York. Oh, I forgot to tell you the year. Let me go back to that Jimmy Stewart book. I forgot to tell you when it was printed. And it was from Harmony Books out of New York, and this was a 2006 book. Sorry about that. All right, and to read the cover of To Conquer a Peace, it says, let's see here. This strikes me as the best general account of the Mexican War I have yet read. Mr. Weems has succeeded admirably in presenting this as a war with very modern overtones. A president who created a war out of nothing much, manipulating matters so that Congress had to support a war which very few members wanted, and a nation which reluctantly prosecuted and won a war while denouncing it as a moral wrong. All of this sounds like something taken from last month's newspapers. In addition, I think this is more important, Mr. Weems knows how to tell a story, and his account of American soldiers on the march in battle at their occasionally riotous ease is extremely readable. All right, so going into the rest of this, it says, so says Bruce Canton. So that was a quote from Bruce Canton. A man who brought the Civil War out of musty archives and congressional records into the hearts and imaginations of a generation of readers. Similarly, John Edward Weems has given his war the same exciting touch of intimacy and the edge of pathos through his personal accounts of people as disparate as James K. Polk and Antonio de Lopez de Santa Anna and Captain Robert E. Lee and Lieutenant Ulysses S. Grant. By blending together the bare, unadorned thoughts of men in action with the many-sided reality of the events themselves, he creates a robust sense of tragic, unpopular war that changed the destiny of two countries. And so, very happy to add this because, like I said, I've never read a book on the Mexican War, and you know, physically the book's in pretty good shape. It's got a little bit of little staining with the age, I guess, on the covers, but as far as the bones of the book, it's in really good shape. So, last two books here. The first one here is The Great American Cattle Trails, the story of the old cow paths of the East and the longhorn highways of the plains by Harry Sinclair Drago. And so, another book on the West. And this book is, let's see here. This one is from Dodd, Mead and Company out of New York, and it is a 1965 book, so it's got a little bit of age to it. And it says, from the 17th century, when colonial traders drove hundreds of barnyard cattle to Boston over Bay State Cowpath until the late 1880s when the era of trail driving came to an end, the great frontier highways wound their way through American history. Even their names, Wilderness Road, the Osage Trace, Chisholm Trail, Shawnee, Western, Cutoff, Dodge, and Goodnight Loving, among many others, are a proud heritage. Here, stripped of myths and folklore, is a definitive account of the cattle trails, of the purpose they served, and of the men who followed them. The muddled history of the famous Chisholm Trail is at last untangled. Included also are the stories of Maxwell and Morris, blazing the route of the Western Trail, over which several million Longhorns and Mustangs would travel in the years to come, of the unsolved mystery of the bleached buffalo skulls that marked every mile of the Cutoff Trail, and of the way blazed by Goodnight and Loving, despite the raids of the ferocious Comanches, which finally cost Loving his life. Then there's the saga of the trailed towns that fattened on the cattle traffic: Abilene, Ellsworth, Newton, Wichita, Caldwell, Dodge City, with the true tales of gunfighters and gamblers, marshals and dance hall girls, feuding railroad men, and an ever-changing army of cowboys. Here, too, are many other documented case histories. The killer enigma that was Texas fever is solved. A stirring chapter describes the bloody battles with the Indians on the Texas road during the Civil War. And the background of the indomitable half-wild Mustangs and the Longhorns is given. And above all, there are factual stories of the trail crews who took part in the greatest mass movement of cattle the world has ever known. The brave, reckless men who faced the hazards of blizzards, hostile Indians, river transformed into raging torrents, stampedes, and the sudden death when they pointed them north. And so this will be, I think, a pretty good story of the cattle drives from the West. And so that'll be a good one to read. And the last one that is in this stack of books is actually a replacement copy, another replacement, because I think I had this one in paperback upstairs. So when I go through my books, I'll get rid of that paperback. But this is Day One, Before Hiroshima and After by Peter Whiddon, however you say his last name. And there you go. And this is a Simon & Schuster book out of New York, and it is from the year 1984. Now, this one does have a little bit of issues right here, and I'll have to do some tape work on it, but it'll be all right. I think it'll hold up. I know my paperback's not in great shape, so even though it's not in great shape, it's better than the one I already have. And it's got some really cool end pages. Got some maps here of the dropping of the bomb. Again, a former library copy, but that's all right. So I'm not going to read this whole account on the cover to you. It's kind of a long one, but anyway, BookTube. I hope you enjoyed this collection of books that have come into the Ruttenberg Library, and thank you for watching. I will put up another video because I got one more small stack to go through, and hope you like this, hope you enjoyed watching it, and as always, happy reading.